You stop giving them power the moment you stop reacting. When you remain calm, you confuse their chaos. You train yourself to choose silence over emotion, focus over frustration, and slowly you become untouchable, not because nothing happens, but because nothing shakes you. That's how real strength is revealed. In a few moments, I will teach you how to remain unshaken, respond with power, and walk through chaos like it's nothing. You become powerful the moment you refuse to be disturbed. You might think strength comes from noise, from reacting, shouting, defending yourself at every turn. But true power, it begins the moment you stop being disturbed. When you let the world move around you without moving you. When someone speaks against you and you keep walking. When life throws a storm and you keep building your house. What do you gain by letting others pull your strings? Every time you explode in anger, you give away your control. Every time you let a petty insult ruin your day, you make the world your master. You weren't born to be mastered. You were born to master yourself. So how do you do it? You decide. Each morning you rise and choose not to be moved. You train your mind like a soldier sharpens his sword, with practice, with awareness, with silence. You write it into your bones. Nothing disturbs me. I remain composed. And when life tests you, you practice again. Imagine you're at work. A man criticizes you in front of others. You feel the heat rising in your chest, but instead of reacting, you smile. You thank him. You walk away. That's power. Not the power to dominate, but to discipline. Ask yourself, what disturbs you today? What throws you off balance? And who benefits when you lose your calm? You've been taught that silence is weakness, but let me tell you, silence is mastery. Because when you stop responding to foolishness, you rise above it. And when you rise above it, the world begins to notice. And more importantly, you begin to respect yourself. The world pushes you until you push back quietly. Life has a way of pressing its weight on your shoulders. People test your limits. Circumstances test your nerves. But what most never learn is this. You don't need to shout to stand your ground. In fact, the most unshakable people rarely raise their voice. You've seen it. A man who is calm under pressure commands more attention than a man who loses his temper. Why? Because composure is rare, and what's rare is respected. When you remain calm, you confuse chaos. When you refuse to react, the world adjusts to you. It's no longer you fighting the world. It's the world learning to handle your silence. So how do you push back without noise? Through action, through boundaries, through unshakable purpose. You write your mission. You hold your posture. You keep your tone steady. And you let time reveal your truth. Imagine someone underestimating you, saying you'll never make it. You don't argue. You don't defend. You work. One day they see your name in places they never imagined, and they'll remember. You never fought back. You rose. What are you trying to prove by reacting to everything? Who are you trying to convince? Let your work speak. Let your results correct the world's perception of you. You've been too available to every opinion, every criticism, but the moment you become selective in what moves you, that's when your power returns. Quiet strength is not weakness. It's strategic, it's deliberate, and in the end, it wins. Let the fire burn around you, not within you. You can't control the wind. You can't stop people from talking, but you can stop the fire from getting inside you. That's your job. That's the key. Too many people spend their life running from flames, avoiding conflict, trying to change others, reacting to every slight, and yet the only fire they should manage is the one within. You don't need to escape chaos. You need to train yourself to walk through it untouched. Let the noise rage. Let people gossip. Let the world erupt. You keep your mind calm, like water in a well, still and deep. How? You become an observer. You practice breathing before speaking. You ask yourself, is this worth my energy, or is this a distraction from my purpose? Then you act, or don't. Imagine someone throws accusations your way. You feel the sting, but you also feel your strength. You stand tall. You don't respond. And as time passes, the truth speaks. The flames die out, and there you are, unburned. Ask yourself this. How many hours have you lost defending yourself to people who never mattered? How much energy have you given to battles that left you drained and unchanged? You were not born to fight every fire. You were born to rise above them. The man who learns to contain his inner fire, who learns to burn for purpose, not for rage, that man becomes unstoppable. The world burns out quickly, but your strength, your calm, that lasts. You must choose dignity over drama every single day. Every morning you wake with a choice. You can chase noise, defend your ego, and run in circles trying to win meaningless battles, or you can stand tall, quiet, and composed. no matter who tries to drag you down. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to respond to every insult. Sometimes walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. You must choose dignity over drama again and again. Why? Because drama is a thief. It steals your time, your energy, and your peace, and it never pays you back. But dignity? Dignity builds your future. Every silent decision you make, every moment you refuse to lower yourself adds value to your character. So how do you choose dignity? You define your principles. You ask yourself, what kind of man am I becoming? You walk away from petty disputes. You stop proving your worth to those who can't. You focus on growth, not gossip. Picture this. Someone mocks you in public. You smile. You don't flinch. You return to your task. Later, they look foolish, not you, and everyone sees it. Ask yourself, how many times have you reacted only to regret it later? How many moments have you wasted chasing validation from those beneath your purpose? You are not here to entertain drama. You are here to build destiny. You build your legacy not by reacting, but by rising. Dignity is the path few walk, but those who do leave footprints that last forever. Control is the ultimate wealth. Own your emotions. There are many kinds of riches in this world. Gold that glitters, land that stretches far, applause that echoes. But the rarest of them all is self-control. Because gold can be stolen, land can be lost, and applause fades into silence. But the man who governs himself, he possesses a kind of wealth that no thief can touch, no fire can burn, no enemy can invade. He owns his peace, his direction, his strength. And in a chaotic world, that's priceless. You do not lose your strength when someone insults you. You lose it the second you let their words dictate your state. That's the trap. Many men fall not to swords, but to pride. Not to battle, but to their inability to master their reaction. One wrong word, one wounded ego, one flash of rage, and their empires crumble. Not because others were powerful, but because they were not in control. Understand this. Control is not about burying what you feel. It's about guiding it. Suppression creates explosions. Direction builds discipline. You don't ignore anger or sadness or pride. You simply don't let them steer the wheel. You become the one who leads your emotions instead of being dragged by them. That's what makes a man dependable. That's what builds trust, both in others and within yourself. Maturity is not coldness, it's quiet authority. So how do you gain this power? Practice discipline. That's where it begins. When anger rises, don't act. Observe. When pride flares, don't speak. Wait. Give yourself space. Step back. Take a breath. Ask, will this response serve my mission or sabotage it? 9 times out of 10, silence will serve you better. And even when you must act, let it be from strength, not impulse. Picture this. Someone whispers lies behind your back. You hear it. You feel it. But you don't chase it. You don't storm around declaring war. You keep your posture. You stay focused. And slowly that lie, it disappears. But your silence, that calm, unwavering poise, becomes a legend. Because real power doesn't panic. It doesn't need to prove itself. It proves itself by doing nothing and still standing strong. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times have you handed your victory to emotion? How many steps forward were lost in moments of heated reaction? Temporary feelings often create permanent regrets. One outburst can break a relationship. One rash move can cost a dream. Is that a price you're willing to pay for the satisfaction of reaction? Or will you pay the smaller price of patience and keep everything you've built? You were not created to be a slave to every mood. You were not born to be pulled by every emotional wave. You were designed for mastery, not over others, but over yourself. The man who controls himself becomes the one others cannot move. And in a world designed to provoke you, staying unprovoked is the ultimate demonstration of strength. That is real wealth. That is unshakable power. Let small things stay small, or they will rule you. A pebble in your shoe doesn't stop your journey because it's heavy. It stops you because you let it stay. That's how most of life's trouble begins. Not with hurricanes, but with tiny, unnoticed grains, a careless comment, an indifferent tone, a glance that lingers too long. And suddenly, your mind spirals, not because the thing is big, but because your attention made it so. The pebble becomes a mountain only if you carry it for miles. What would happen if you just stopped and removed it? Most of what upsets you won't matter a year from now, or even a week. It doesn't touch your mission. It doesn't change your worth. The real problem is not the thing itself. It's that you keep making everything matter. You turn every annoyance into a battle, every slight into a symbol. You lose yourself by giving energy to what doesn't deserve your energy. Here's the wisdom. Let small things stay small. Don't magnify the meaningless. Maturity is not found in reacting to everything. It's found in choosing what's worth it. You can notice the irritation without feeding it. You can feel the sting without becoming the wound. A man of peace is not a man without enemies. He's a man who knows what deserves his attention and what deserves only a shrug. Let your inner world stay still, even when the outer world pokes and prods. How do you build that stillness? You build a threshold, a mental gate. You ask yourself in the moment, will this matter in 5 years? Does this help me grow? Is this worth the focus I'm about to give? If the answer is no, release it. Don't rehearse it, don't explain it, just let it go, like brushing off dust from your coat, like letting go of a thread that's not yours to pull. Picture this scene. Someone cuts you off in a line, or interrupts your story, or says your name wrong. You feel it, yes, but you don't feed it. You smile, you move on, and in that moment, you win, not over them, but over yourself. You've proven that you can stay large even when the world shrinks. That kind of control is rare. That kind of power is silent. What if you could train your mind to discard small troubles like crumbs off a table? What if your peace didn't depend on others behaving perfectly, but on your refusal to shrink into smallness? What if your strength was measured not by how you fight, but by what you refuse to fight for? Your peace is not built by controlling everything. It's built by refusing to be pulled into battles that don't matter. You are not here to react. You are here to rise. Rise above the dust, above the noise, above the pebble. Let it fall and walk on. Your value is proven in restraint, not reaction. You don't impress the world by how loud you are. Noise is everywhere, but calm is rare. You impress the world by how little it takes to move you. In storms, most scream, few stand still. The man who holds back, who observes, who waits, he carries a quiet force. He doesn't blurt or boast. He doesn't try to prove, because he knows. And what is known doesn't need to be shouted. That kind of self-redress. True strength isn't in the reaction. It's in the restraint. That's what separates leaders from followers. Most people live by reflex. They speak before thinking. They strike before understanding. They react before listening. And in doing so, they reveal their lack of depth. But the one who doesn't leap into every impulse, he becomes magnetic. Not because he's trying to be, but because calm in a storm always draws the eye. Restraint is not weakness, it is power, polished. Power without direction destroys, but power that's held back, shaped, and released at the right moment, that changes things. Restraint is not silence for silence's sake. It's the wisdom to wait. It's the wisdom to let the fire burn out before you enter the room. And when you finally speak, every word carries weight, because it's clear you've measured them. So, how do you develop this kind of presence? You train it, like a muscle. You sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. You allow silence instead of filling it. You breathe through the impulse to react. You let others rant, argue, and spill their emotions. You don't match their storm, you watch it pass. And in that space, you gain clarity. In that space, you earn control over yourself and eventually over the room. Picture this. A room filled with tension. Arguments fly, voices clash, emotions flare. But there you are, unmoved. You wait, you watch. And when you speak, it's not long, it's not loud, it's sharp, calm, and final. And just like that, the chaos dissolves. Not because you fought it, but because you didn't need to. Restraint gave your words power. Your stillness shook the room louder than any shout could. Most people act to impress. But here's the truth. Impression fades. Purpose lasts. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it matters or because I want to be noticed? Every act without purpose becomes noise. But when you act with clear intention, even silence becomes impactful. The man who knows doesn't need to prove. He doesn't chase approval. He moves only when it matters, and when he does, others follow. You don't need to react to be seen. You need to withhold to be respected. The one who can pause while others panic becomes the leader by default. He becomes the voice others seek in noise, the calm that others lean on in confusion, not because he demanded respect, but because he embodied it. In a shaking world, be grounded. In loud rooms, be silent. In rising storms, be still. Because the world doesn't remember the loudest voice. It remembers the one who didn't flinch. Restraint is not absence, it's mastery. And in mastering your reactions, you master yourself. And once you master yourself, nothing can master you. When you stop responding, you start ruling. Every time you respond to foolishness, you step into its shadow. You enter an arena where truth doesn't matter and energy is wasted. And every time you try to prove yourself to those beneath your mission, you step down from your path. Not because they pulled you, but because you chose to engage. But when you stop responding, something powerful shifts. You rise. You step out of the noise and into control. You become an observer, not a participant. And that distance, that's where real power lives. Silence can dominate in ways shouting never will. A calm non-response can silence a room more than force. When you don't react, you're not weak, you're elevated. You send a message not just to others but to yourself. I am above this. You affirm your direction, you protect your energy, you build a boundary around your focus, and that boundary becomes your strength. The moment you stop flinching at criticism, you begin to grow. You're no longer controlled by opinions. The moment you stop explaining yourself to doubters, you begin to expand. You no longer live for their approval. And when you stop being baited into conflict, you begin to reign in your space. You're not dragged into battles you didn't choose. You rise above them, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You don't need to fight for your name. Your presence proves enough. So how do you stop reacting? You train your focus like a lens. Every time something tugs at your emotions, you ask one question. Does this serve my mission? If the answer is no, you detach. Not with anger, not with drama, but with calm, deliberate grace. You don't need to slam the door. You simply stop walking into rooms that waste your light. Imagine this. You're walking through town, focused on your goals. Someone shouts at you, calls you a failure. You hear it. You pause. You look, not with rage, but with stillness. And then you walk on. That walk, that's not escape. That's mastery. Because the man who walks away with dignity holds more power than the man who stays to argue with a fool. That moment is a declaration. I choose my peace over your chaos. Why feed things that don't feed you? Why spend your minutes and mind on distractions that dilute your mission? Every time you engage with what doesn't matter, you subtract from what does. Your time, energy, and focus are sacred. Treat them as such. Let gossip die without your voice. Let insult vanish without your defense. Let drama wither without your attention. When you stop responding to doubt, chaos, and noise, you begin to command. Not by force, but by presence. Because true authority doesn't chase approval or validation. It stands firm. It moves forward. It leads. The world watches how you handle conflict and takes its cue. If you lead yourself with discipline, others follow that example. You set the tone. Rule yourself first. That's the foundation of all leadership. When your emotions answer only to your mission, not to provocation, you become unshakable. And in that stillness, in that silence, in that non-reaction, you rise. Not just above others, but into your highest self. Let people talk. Your silence will echo louder. You cannot control what people say. Their opinions, judgments, and gossip belong to them, not to you. But what you become in response, that's entirely within your power. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them project their own limitations onto you. While they speak, you build. While they waste time weaving stories, you stay on mission. And the higher you rise, the quieter they'll become. Not because you silence them, but because your progress did. There's a strength in silence that noise can never imitate. When you refuse to argue, when you don't explain, when you don't react, you multiply your energy. Your silence doesn't mean weakness, it means focus. When others rant and gossip, you create. While they circle in petty debates, you evolve in solitude. And one day, when your work stands tall and undeniable, they'll be forced to look up and wonder how you did it. Let people talk. Let them get it wrong. Let them misunderstand. You do not have to chase every false word like a fire to be extinguished. It is not your job to explain yourself to every voice that doesn't understand your path. Most noise fades. Most critics forget their own words. But truth remains. Character remains. The man who pauses every step to argue with barking dogs, he never reaches the summit. But the one who climbs in silence, he arrives. How do you hold that silence without breaking? By anchoring yourself in work. You focus on the craft, the grind, the calling. You don't drift into distractions. You don't look over your shoulder. You ask yourself daily, does this serve my mission? If it doesn't, you ignore it. You keep your hands busy and your mind clear. That's how greatness is built, not through defense, but through direction. Picture this. You begin something bold, a business, a dream, a new way of life. People smirk. They scoff behind your back. Some even say it to your face. But you say nothing. You don't clap back. You don't debate. You show up. Again and again. You work when they sleep. You build when they laugh. And years later, when you're thriving, they ask for it, but you don't have to speak. Your life says it all. Ask yourself, what could I build if I stopped defending myself and started believing in myself? What kind of momentum would I gain if I let go of needing to be understood and embraced the silence of focus? Every minute spent explaining yourself is a minute lost from execution. Your time is a seed, planted in your vision, not in their noise. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your results respond for you. The mansion doesn't explain how it was built, it stands. The tree doesn't justify its roots, it grows. The sun doesn't answer the dark, it rises. You don't need to prove, you need to become. And when you do, everything changes. Because the greatest power is not found in being heard. It's found in becoming undeniable. Not when you force people to see, but when they can't ignore what you've become. Strength is when you stay calm, especially when you're right. Anyone can stay quiet when they're wrong. Silence feels like retreat, but to stay calm when you're right, that requires mastery. That's a test of ego, of wisdom, of true inner strength. Because nothing stings quite like being misjudged or misunderstood when you know the truth. The impulse to correct, defend, and prove is powerful. But the one who can hold that fire, who can choose peace over pride, that person holds a power few ever earn. When you've been wronged or falsely accused, the ego screams. It wants the last word. It wants justice. Now! It shouts, explain yourself. Show them. But wisdom whispers softly, let it go. That whisper is easy to ignore. It doesn't feel satisfying, but it's the path of the strong. You're not letting go because you're weak. You're letting go because you know that peace and progress are worth more than temporary validation. Staying calm when you're right doesn't mean you're surrendering the truth. It means you've risen above the noise. It means you've traded the instant gratification of being right for the long-term power of being focused. When you know the truth and choose not to react, you protect your energy. You reserve your fire for the mission that matters, not a debate that doesn't. The wisest warriors don't fight every battle. They conserve their strength for what's worthy. How do you stay composed when your truth is under fire? You fix your eyes on the bigger vision. You ask yourself, does this help me grow? Will proving them wrong help me move forward? Most of the time, the answer is no. So instead of spending your day trying to be understood by someone who refuses to see, you move forward, quietly, powerfully, intentionally. Imagine this. Someone twists your words. They mock your intentions. They throw shade when you're building in the light. Your blood simmers. You want to explain. You want to fire back. But instead you breathe. You nod. You smile. And you keep building. Weeks pass. Their words vanish like smoke. But your results, they stand, they echo. And they turn doubters into silent observers. You didn't need to argue. You just needed to keep going. Ask yourself, how many peaceful days have you traded for the satisfaction of being right? How many relationships strained? How many opportunities missed? How many mental hours wasted trying to prove a point that didn't matter in the long run? You may win the argument and lose the moment. You may be right and still go backward. Wisdom isn't just about knowing truth. It's about knowing what to do with it. There's a higher ground than being right. It's being unbothered. It's being centered. It's walking through noise and choosing silence. The man who can remain still in a storm, especially when he's right, becomes a force that others can't shake. Because when your peace no longer depends on others' understanding, you've reached a different level of power, one that's rooted, one that's unshakable. This kind of strength is rare. It turns heads without shouting. It builds empires without clashing swords. It leaves legacies not through force, but through example. People may not always agree with you. They may not even see your side. But when your life is proof of your principles, you no longer need their approval. You become your own confirmation. Let the world throw its words. Let them misjudge. You don't have to correct every misconception. You don't have to chase every false story. You just have to continue. In time, the truth always emerges. And when it does, your dignity will be intact. Your energy will be strong, and your legacy will be built not on noise, but on grace. So the next time your truth is challenged and your heart aches to speak, pause. Remember who you are. Remember what you're building. Ask yourself, does this matter? Is this worth the cost of my calm? If not, let it pass. Let your silence speak. Let your results thunder. Because the highest form of power is not needing to prove. It's becoming the proof. Your calm is a weapon, and few know how to wield it. There's something deeply unsettling about a man who doesn't flinch. The world hurls chaos, criticism, and pressure his way, yet he remains calm, steady, unmoved. People begin to question him. They wonder what he's hiding, what makes him so composed. But the truth is simple. He's hiding nothing. He has mastered himself. He doesn't need to respond. He doesn't need to explain. His silence is not emptiness, it's full of power. His stillness is not weakness, it's sharp control in motion. Calmness threatens the untrained. It shakes those who rely on drama for relevance. When you refuse to be provoked, you become a mirror. You reflect their instability back to them. The louder they get, the more your silence exposes them. When you don't rise to meet their energy, they lose grip, not just over you, but over themselves. That's why calmness, when real, is mistaken for arrogance. But it's not arrogance, it's ascension. Most people react to everything. A tone, a glance, a post, a moment of discomfort. Their emotions sit at the surface just waiting to be poked. And so the world controls them. One insult and they're shattered. One disagreement and they're spinning. But imagine training yourself to be different. Imagine responding only when the response moves you forward. Imagine conserving your energy like it's gold, because it is. That kind of discipline builds a person others can't rattle. To get there, you must train your nervous system, not just your thoughts. You must discipline your reactions. Stop rehearsing comebacks in your head. Stop justifying yourself to people who don't understand your path. Begin to view calmness as precision. When you hold your silence, you're not ignoring life, you're selecting your battles with intent. You're not passive, you're powerful. You've chosen clarity over chaos, and that choice rewires how you move in the world. Picture this moment. Someone confronts you unfairly. They twist your words. They try to provoke a reaction. You feel your chest tighten, your blood warm. But instead of matching their energy, you do something they don't expect. You pause. You meet their gaze. You smile, not sarcastically, but knowingly, and you turn back to your task. That moment, that's power. Because they gave you chaos, and you responded with clarity. While they burn with emotion, you remain untouchable. Your attention stays on your mission. Your peace stays intact. And they have nothing to strike. You gave them no target. In that moment, you own not just yourself, but the room. And it's not because you spoke louder. It's because you didn't need to speak at all. Now ask yourself, how much energy have you wasted reacting to what didn't matter? How many hours of peace were traded away for the short-lived satisfaction of being right? How often have you let small things rob you of big focus? You weren't meant to fight every battle. You were meant to win the right ones. Your energy is sacred. Every reaction you give away is power lost. Your calm is your shield. It protects your mind, your schedule, your purpose. It guards your time from being devoured by distractions. And more than that, it builds your presence. The less you react, the more you command. When others run wild, you walk slow. When they throw noise, you answer with silence. Not because you can't respond, but because you chose not to. In a world ruled by noise, stillness is suspicious. But let it be. Let them wonder why you don't flinch. Let them question your silence. While they gossip, rant, and spiral, you build. You sharpen. You stay focused. The reward is not just peace, it's progress. You will rise while others waste their breath, and they won't understand how you did it because they were too loud to notice the quiet power passing them by. So the next time you're tested, pause, ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? If it doesn't, let it die in silence. Let your calm say what your words never need to. Because mastery is not shown in how loud you get, but in how little it takes to move you. And when you become the man who doesn't flinch, you become the man no one can stop. The highest discipline is emotional self-control. You may think the fiercest battles are out there, where money moves fast, where people compete to win, where strategies clash. But the deepest war, it's not external, It's the invisible war inside you. It's the struggle to remain calm when everything screams for you to lose control. It's the daily decision to lead your emotions rather than follow them. This inner war doesn't shout. It whispers. It tests you when no one is watching, when you're hurt, rejected, or insulted. And how you respond in those moments, that's your true strength. A man who cannot govern his emotions is not free. He may look powerful, speak boldly, even lead others, but one sharp word can break him. He is at the mercy of moods, of misunderstandings, of passing opinions. His peace is held hostage by how others treat him. But the one who disciplines his emotional world, he becomes unshakable. He becomes rare. He becomes dangerous. Not because he harms, but because he cannot be harmed. Control doesn't mean you become numb. It means you remain rooted when the storm hits. It's clarity in chaos. When others lose their heads, you keep yours. When betrayal shows up at your door, you do not collapse. You process, you pause, and you persist. You feel, but you don't drown. You hurt, but you don't halt. You carry your pain with dignity instead of wearing it like armor. That's the quiet mark of a man who's trained himself beyond emotion. So how do you reach this level of control? You practice detachment. You don't detach from life or relationships. You detach from the need to instantly respond. You pause between stimulus and reaction. You ask questions. Instead of saying, "Why me?" you ask, "What can I learn from this?" That question alone shifts your power. It gives you control not over the world, but over yourself. And that's the only control worth mastering. Picture this. You receive a rejection. Job, proposal, idea, the sting is real. Your pride wants to shout, to prove, to explain. But instead, you do something powerful. Nothing. You sit, you breathe, you process it like a calm river, not a crashing wave, and you return to your craft. Weeks later, an unexpected opportunity appears. Better, deeper, aligned. Why? Because you didn't let the wrong door stop you from walking your path. Now ask yourself, what if you stopped reacting to every little thing? What if instead of panicking, you paused? What if you trained yourself to observe before you answered? To respond with strength rather than emotion? Your life would become simpler, clearer, more focused. You wouldn't be dragged into arguments, sucked into drama, or wounded by every passing storm. You'd carry peace like a sword, and people would feel it. The person who leads his emotions leads his life. But the man led by his emotions, he's always chasing shadows, trying to fix things outside that are broken inside. He reacts to the moment and ruins the mission. Every high makes him arrogant, every low makes him hopeless. But when you gain control, your circumstances stop dictating your character. You move from being reactive to being strategic. You become a builder, not a slave. Let's make something clear. Restraint is not weakness. It is the greatest form of power. Anyone can shout. Anyone can break things. But it takes strength to stay calm in chaos, to walk away when provoked, to remain silent when falsely accused. That's not passive. That's dominance. Because you are choosing you. You are choosing peace over pride, focus over fury, purpose over panic. And that decision separates the strong from the scattered. This doesn't mean you'll never feel anger or pain. It means you don't let those emotions control the wheel. You acknowledge them, but you don't obey them. You know when to speak and when to stay still. You know that not every battle is worth your energy. Some things are beneath your mission. Some insults don't deserve answers. Some chaos doesn't need your attention because your life is too valuable for distractions. So the next time you're tempted to explode, pause. When someone disrespects you, breathe. When life throws fire, don't throw wood. Respond with thought, not emotion. That gap between feeling and action, that's where power lives. That's where your destiny is shaped, not in the reaction, but in the decision, in the restraint, in the quiet refusal to let the world dictate your inner world. This emotional control isn't built overnight. It's trained, forged, strengthened through daily practice. Begin small. Delay your reactions. Challenge your assumptions. Study your patterns. And above all, remember your mission. When you live from mission, not emotion, you become powerful. You don't waste yourself proving your worth. You show your worth by your silence, your precision, your refusal to be shaken by noise. Control your emotions, and you command your direction. Let emotions rule, and you become a puppet of the moment. Greatness does not rise from endless action. It rises from disciplined stillness. The world will test you, people will provoke you, but only you decide who you become in response. Choose wisely, choose control, and in that choice, you will rise above them all. Composure is proof You believe in your future. When you truly believe in where you are, you stop panicking over where you are. You don't crumble over delays. You don't beg for shortcuts. You don't force results or chase applause. You simply move forward, steady, focused, composed. Because belief silences urgency. It replaces panic with patience. You trust the season you're in even when it's slow, because you know it's preparing you for the one that's coming. Your eyes aren't just on what's in front of you. They're locked on a vision, and that vision makes you unshakable. Composure is often misunderstood. People think it's passivity, a lack of hunger, or being emotionally cold. But composure isn't laziness. It's certainty. It's the quiet confidence that says, I may not have what I want now, but I'm on the way. It's a mind rooted in conviction, not in chaos. You're not pretending things don't matter. You just refuse to let them control your energy. That's real strength. Those who constantly react, defend themselves, explain everything, argue every criticism, often lack a clear direction. When you don't know who you are or where you're going, everything becomes a threat. So you grasp for attention, chase approval, and fight shadows. But the one who has a vision, he doesn't chase noise, he filters it. He sees distractions for what they are and keeps building. A man with direction is a man with peace, because he knows what's his doesn't require force, it only requires faith and effort. How do you build this level of calm? Through repetition, through daily rehearsal of belief. You speak your mission out loud. You clarify your direction. You remove excuses and replace them with action. You build routines, systems, and disciplines that remind you, I'm on track. And when doubt shows up, and it will, you don't argue with it emotionally. You answer it with preparation. Your calendar, your habits, your consistency, they all speak louder than fear. Now imagine this. You tell someone your dream. They scoff. They say it's foolish, too big, unrealistic. In the past, you might have defended yourself, explained your vision, sought validation. But now, you just nod. You smile. You return to your work. Why? Because you've grown. You don't just believe in your dream. You believe in yourself. Their disbelief doesn't disturb your focus. It confirms it, because real belief doesn't need to be loud. It simply continues. This is the test. Do your reactions reveal confidence or expose insecurity? When you hear criticism, do you break? When plans shift, do you panic? Or do you breathe, recalibrate, and keep moving? A composed man is anchored. His emotions may stir, but they don't steer. He lives from principle, not impulse. And that's why people begin to notice, not because he's shouting, but because he's centered. They respect his future because he clearly does. Composure is not about not caring. It's about not collapsing. It's power in silence. It's fire under control. It's the ability to walk away from foolish battles because you're focused on a greater war. You understand the value of your energy, so you don't waste it proving things. You produce things, and your results speak volumes. That's why composed men rise, not because they fought everything, but because they preserved themselves for what mattered. Let others be loud. Let them swing wildly. You hold steady. You think long. You build slow, knowing that shortcuts crumble. Your goal isn't just to arrive, it's to last. And that requires patience, discipline, and deep-rooted faith. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you prove to yourself that you are already becoming the person your future requires. You stop asking for signs. You become one. Every day you'll be tested. You'll be tempted to shout, to hurry, to explain. But you must remember, the calm man always has more power because he hasn't wasted it, because he channels it. And over time, that makes him unstoppable. Emotions fade, opinions change, but the man who walks steadily outlasts them all. He doesn't need to declare his strength. He embodies it, step by step, day by day. What would your life look like if you lived with this kind of composure? If you stopped over-explaining, overreacting, overthinking, and simply trusted your pace? You would gain time. You would reclaim energy. You would draw people in, not with performance, but with presence. And you would rise, not in a rush, but in rhythm. Let this be your daily reminder. Your silence isn't weakness, it's your strategy. So never forget, the man who walks calmly walks far. While others sprint in fear, you move with wisdom. While others crumble under doubt, you rise through discipline. Because calm isn't just a posture, it's a weapon. And those who master it, they win more than battles. They win themselves. They become the kind of people who not only reach the top, but stay there, anchored by inner peace. Let time be your spokesman, not your mouth. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most confident. Their volume hides uncertainty. Their need to explain, defend, and declare is often rooted in fear. Fear that if they don't say it, no one will see it. But the man who knows who he is doesn't need to convince the room. He lets time speak. He lets results speak. While others seek validation through noise, he builds quiet. He knows his worth isn't proven by words, it's confirmed by outcomes. And those outcomes, they take time. You don't have to announce every move. You don't need to argue every opinion or justify every delay. Real power is quiet. It doesn't rush to be seen, it waits to be undeniable. Truth has a strange way of rising, always. And when you live in integrity, with focus and discipline, the need for defense disappears. Because eventually time tells the story better than you ever could. Silence backed by excellence, that's the loudest thing in the world. It's not passive, it's preparation. It's not avoidance, it's strategy. Most people can't handle silence because they don't trust the process. So they overshare, overreact, and overprove. But when you believe in what you're building, you don't panic. You play the long game. You let others talk while you create. Let them count you out. That only makes the unveiling more powerful. When you reveal your work, not with words, but results, the world will understand what silence was hiding. The one who trusts time has no need to rush the spotlight. He doesn't ask to be seen. He becomes impossible to ignore. He doesn't defend what he's building. He sharpens it. He doesn't chase attention. He builds attention-worthy things. And when the work is finally revealed, it doesn't just impress, it stuns. Because while others were broadcasting their plans, he was executing them in silence. Let this be your edge. Let your discipline replace your declarations. How do you practice this kind of silence? You choose privacy over performance. You resist the urge to explain your every move. You stop justifying to people who don't matter. You stop performing for validation and instead focus on real output. You train yourself to move without updates, to build without applause, and to plan without announcement. Because in the end, your results won't ask for permission to be seen, they'll demand it. Imagine working on a business, a craft, or a dream behind closed doors. People start assuming you've failed. You've gone quiet. They don't see the daily struggle, the hours of unseen effort. They laugh, they doubt, they forget, and then, months later, you release it. A book, a product, a breakthrough. The same people who dismissed you, now they're watching, shocked, inspired, curious. But you don't need to explain. You just let them witness what you built. Ask yourself, how much energy would you reclaim if you stopped constantly talking about what you'll do and simply did it? Every word spent defending your dream is a word not used to build it. Every time you argue, you drain yourself. Silence isn't weakness, it's leverage. It gives you space. It sharpens your focus. It keeps the enemy guessing and the noise outside your gate, because silence is not emptiness, it's containment of power. Your silence is not retreat, it's preparation. While others exhaust themselves trying to be seen, you conserve your energy for the right moment. While they post updates, you post progress. And when your moment comes, it hits harder, because no one saw it coming. You didn't promise it, you proved it. Let this become your operating system. Less talk, more execution. Fewer promises, more precision, fewer explanations or elevation. Let others waste their breath trying to convince. Let them seek followers, attention, and credit. You chase mastery. You chase truth. You refine your craft so deeply that it no longer needs introduction. When your work speaks, it carries the weight of silence and the echo of purpose. It doesn't need hashtags or approval. It stands on its own because it was built in solitude, sharpened in silence, and released in strength. And that's the key. Time, when partnered with purpose, speaks with unmatched authority. It cannot be debated. It cannot be denied. It cannot be faked. That's why you must learn to use time like a weapon, not by rushing it, but by trusting it. You give time the raw material of discipline, effort, and patience, and in return, time becomes your loudest voice. It becomes your evidence, your witness, your ally. So step back from the need to be understood, release the habit of over-explaining, learn to love the quiet grind. Let time build your case, let results be your statement. And remember this, the one who builds in silence owns the stage when it's time. Because when you trust the work and trust the wait, you don't just arrive, you arrive transformed. In the end, your silence will speak louder than all the noise you resist. Your work will echo longer than any defense you didn't give. And your discipline will shine brighter than any spotlight you didn't chase. Let time speak for you, and when it does, it will speak louder than you ever could. When you master reaction, you master relationships. The success of every relationship, whether in business, friendship, or family, comes down to a single skill: how well you manage your own emotions. It's not about controlling others. That's impossible. It's about mastering yourself when things don't go your way. Every argument, misunderstanding, or conflict becomes a test not of their behavior, but of your emotional discipline. And the man who fails that test repeatedly, he sabotages opportunity after opportunity. But the one who holds steady, he builds trust, credibility, and connection that lasts. You cannot control how others speak, think, or treat you, but you can control what you become in their presence. This is the difference between a reaction and a response. The reactive man is a slave to ego. The responsive man is guided by purpose. When you get offended by every word, every delay, every challenge, you weaken your influence. But when you hold yourself together, others begin to see you as stronger than the situation. Think of it this way: the man who argues over every word destroys more than he wins. Even if he's right, he leaves damage in his wake. Trust erodes, respect diminishes. But the man who listens before reacting, who pauses before speaking, who remains calm even when chaos erupts around him, that man becomes magnetic. People gravitate toward those who make them feel safe, respected, and heard. He doesn't dominate conversations, he guides them with maturity. People don't remember every sentence you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. If your presence brings peace instead of pressure, stability instead of storms, then you become someone others want to be around. That's leadership, not by force, but by composure. When you can keep calm while others fall apart, you naturally rise in status, even without a title, because you show that you are in control. So how do you train this level of emotional control? By putting mission over emotion. Every time you feel triggered, ask yourself, will this response help build the bridge or burn it? You don't always need the last word. You don't always need to correct someone. Sometimes silence is the most powerful move you can make, because silence often speaks maturity, and maturity keeps the connection alive long after emotions have faded. Picture this: a colleague openly questions your authority in a meeting. You feel the heat rise. Your instinct wants to shut them down, defend your name. But instead, you pause, you breathe. You respond with clarity, not ego. You stay focused on the mission, not your pride. Afterward, others respect you more, not just for your point, but for your poise. And that colleague, they begin to respect you too, not because you overpowered them, but because you handled yourself. Now ask yourself, how many relationships, partnerships, or chances have you strained because you needed to be right, because you reacted instead of reflecting? Emotionally impulsive people may win arguments, but they often lose people. And over time, that's a high price. You need others to build anything meaningful. So the more you control your reactions, the more you open doors instead of closing them. Mastering your reactions isn't just about inner peace. It's about external influence. In every room, the most respected person is rarely the loudest. It's the one who keeps their cool when tension rises, the one who listens, who chooses when to speak, who shows respect even when they don't receive it. That person earns trust. That person earns access. Because composure is the mark of someone who's ready to lead by example, not just by title. And here's the deeper truth: connection builds your future. You don't rise alone, you rise through relationships. Every mentor, investor, ally, or friend is a bridge. Don't burn them for the sake of ego. Preserve them through patience. Choose understanding over outbursts. Choose clarity over control. When you lead with calm presence, people want to help you, follow you, and stand beside you, because you become the rare type they trust. Every great future is built on great relationships, and every great relationship is preserved through mastered reactions. Your ability to stay composed in hard moments will define how far you go. So train yourself daily. Reflect on your triggers. Prepare responses in advance. Practice empathy without agreement. And remember, sometimes your silence, your pause, your smile can say more than your argument ever will. Let others explode. You remain grounded. Let them argue. You stay aligned with your purpose. The world needs less noise and more men of substance. Men who can take heat without raising their voice. Men who can correct without condemning. Men who can lead without needing to dominate. You become that man not through titles, but through self-restraint. So commit to this discipline. Master your reactions. Master your relationships. Because the man who can control himself can connect with anyone. And the man who can connect can build anything. If you stay calm long enough, the truth will fight for you. You don't have to chase justice. You don't have to beg anyone to see your side. When you remain calm, when you continue to walk in integrity, in purpose, in stillness, the truth will rise on your behalf. That's not wishful thinking. That's reality. That's law. Time has a strange way of revealing everything that was hidden. Lies fade. Accusations weaken. But character, that remains. And when you let your character speak louder than your defense, you gain something far stronger than sympathy. You gain respect. You've witnessed it before. The man who scrambles to explain himself, who insists on being understood, often looks guilty, even when he's not. But the one who stays composed, who says little, who stays focused, he holds power. Because panic always weakens your position. But calmness suggests certainty. It signals strength. It tells the world, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. Time will. Most people react instantly. They can't stand silence. They fear being misjudged. So they rush to correct every narrative, to clear their name, to be heard. But here's the truth. Fear never builds anything lasting. Reactivity is rooted in insecurity. It's driven by the need for approval. But approval is unstable. One moment you have it, the next it's gone. What lasts is trust. And trust is built not through explanations, but through quiet consistency. So what do you do when someone falsely accuses you? When they twist your intentions, when they whisper behind your back? You resist the urge to engage. You don't lower yourself to their level. You stay still. You stand rooted in your mission. You speak through your work. Because nothing silences a rumor more effectively than results. You double down, not on revenge, but on excellence. Picture this. Someone tries to tear you down. They spread rumors, question your integrity, try to poison your reputation. You burn inside. Your pride wants to scream, but you don't. You do something much harder. You breathe, you smile, and you go back to work. Days turn into months. Your performance outshines the gossip. Your calm unsettles your critics. And the same people who once believed the lies, now they respect your restraint. This is the difference between men who react and men who lead. Leaders understand that not every battle requires a sword. Some victories come from silence, from outlasting the storm, from staying composed when it's easier to explode. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you ruined by speaking too soon? How many alliances have you damaged by defending yourself too aggressively? And how much more could you gain by letting your success do the talking? When you know the truth and you know who you are, you stop chasing validation. You stop arguing with shadows. You stop explaining yourself to those who've already decided not to understand you. Because you realize it's not your job to be understood. It's your job to stay aligned. Aligned with your values. Aligned with your path. Aligned with your inner peace. Let them lie. Let them watch. Let them doubt. None of it changes your truth. You don't need everyone to believe you. You just need to remain unshaken. Because in the end, truth always rises. Maybe not on your timeline, maybe not in your preferred way, but it rises. And when it does, the silence you kept becomes your greatest strength. People remember the dignity you held when you could have broken. Understand this. The loudest defense is often insecurity in disguise. But calmness, real calmness, is earned. It comes from doing the inner work, from building a life so strong, so mission-driven, so filled with purpose that no accusation can derail it. You stop needing to defend every corner. You know that time is your advocate. You know that consistency is your court. And in that courtroom, results are evident. There is power in stillness, not the kind that hides, but the kind that waits, that chooses wisdom over impulse, that watches the storm pass without stepping into it. When you live this way, people begin to see you differently. They see your patience, your discipline, your ability to lead yourself under pressure. And that's when doors begin to open. Not because you shouted, but because you stood firm. So the next time someone tests you with a lie, remember, you don't need to fight every fire. Some flames burn out when you stop feeding them. Let your work speak. Let your peace speak. Let your life speak. Because the truth doesn't need a defense, it needs time. And when it finally arrives, it will roar louder than any voice that ever rose against you. Let others waste their breath. You protect your energy. Let them push for reactions. You protect your mission. Because when all the noise fades and the dust settles, it's not the argument they'll remember. It's your poise. And that poise, that's power. That's victory. That's truth. Doing the talking. You are not meant to be easily moved. A leaf moves with the wind. A rock stays grounded. Which are you? The world is full of people, swayed by every opinion, setback, or slight. One harsh word throws them off. One delay ruins their day. But greatness is not built in those who shift with every gust. It's built in those who stand firm, rooted, focused, steady. This world doesn't need more reactive people. It needs men and women who carry weight, who hold their ground. Not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. You were never made to be blown around. You were not created to be easily moved. You were meant to be anchored, meant to walk into a room and set the tone, not adapt to it. Your presence should carry calm. Your voice should carry clarity. Others adjust to you, not because you dominate, but because you radiate certainty. This is your power. To remain the same regardless of chaos, noise, or shifting opinions. So why do most people change so quickly? Because they have no internal anchor. Their mood depends on approval. Their confidence depends on comfort. Their tone depends on whether others are kind. This is not strength, it's dependence. It's a fragile way to live. Power begins the moment you stop letting circumstances choose your mindset. You choose. You train your inner world so deeply that nothing external shakes what's been built inside. How do you develop this inner immovability? You build identity. You decide who you are before the world does. You write your own code. You wake up each day and choose your tone, your attitude, your focus, and you don't let go of it, no matter who offends you, no matter what goes wrong, no matter how people treat you, because your behavior is not a reflection of them, it's a reflection of you. Picture this. You wake up prepared, but everything goes wrong. Your ride is late. Your project is criticized. Someone disrespects your effort. You feel it, but you don't flinch. You keep your composure. You answer with poise. You don't let the world pull you into its storm. Because you're built for something greater. You don't crumble over details. You walk through the fire without changing temperature. That's real stability. Ask yourself, are you a thermostat or a thermometer? Thermometers react to temperature. Thermostats set it. Thermometers mirror the room. Thermostats shape it. Which are you? Are you someone who reflects moods, energies, and chaos around you? Or are you someone who brings clarity, calm, and confidence into the space? Immovable people don't just survive the day. They lead it. They decide what energy will prevail, regardless of what comes. Being unshakable doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being disciplined. It means you feel things, but you don't become them. You don't let a mood drive the mission. You don't let a setback rewrite your story. You can be honest about your struggle, but still steady in your response. That balance is rare, but it's also magnetic. People are drawn to those who remain firm under pressure. This world will throw wind at you every day. Confusion, criticism, disappointment, disrespect. But if you want to build anything lasting, anything powerful, you must become someone the wind cannot move. You must train yourself to respond from identity, not injury, from intention, not impulse. That's how leaders rise, not because they were never tested, but because they were never shaken. Imagine how powerful your life could be if you chose to be unmovable, if you stopped adjusting your energy for things that don't deserve it, if you stopped giving your peace away to minor offenses, if you kept showing up with consistency regardless of how others act. That's how people remember you, not by your reaction, but by your reliability. Your grounded nature becomes your legacy. Don't let people's mood swings control your mental state. Don't let traffic, delay, or criticism own your day. Own yourself. Decide how you want to show up, and show up like that no matter what. Let others call you stubborn. Let them call you cold. One day, they'll call you respected. Because when the storm came, you didn't sway. You stood. and others leaned on your strength. The world doesn't need more noise. It doesn't need more speed. It needs weight. People who walk with gravity. People who bring stillness to chaos. Be the one who can enter a volatile room and settle it, not with dominance, but with quiet presence. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove. Just be rooted. And watch how the world begins to listen, even in silence. This is your mission. Be the person who is not moved by small things, so you are ready for the big thing. Build so deeply within yourself that no disappointment, no betrayal, no unexpected blow can shift your course. Because when you become immovable, you don't just survive the storm, you guide others through it. And that, right there, is leadership. That is your calling. What you ignore, you outgrow. Not everything deserves your attention. In fact, the more you learn to ignore, the more power you regain. Attention is energy, and energy is limited. What you give it to grows. If you keep reacting to every slight, every petty insult, every piece of noise, you make small things bigger. You breathe life into distractions that should have died in silence. But when you withhold your reaction, something powerful happens. They begin to wither, and in that same silence, you rise. Most people don't realize this. They feel obligated to respond, to explain, to clarify. But the truth is, you're not responsible for managing the stories others create about you. You're responsible for building your own. You weren't built to wrestle with shadows. You were built to walk in light, to rise above the weeds, not wrestle in them. The moment you stop feeding drama, it loses its grip. The moment you focus, you don't need to address every insult. You don't need to clear up every lie. You don't need to prove yourself to those who've already chosen not to see you. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them watch. Your job is to build, to stay rooted, to refuse the bait. Not everything that calls for your attention deserves it. If you want to rise, you must learn this early. Your silence is your strategy. So how do you master the art of ignoring? You shift your focus. You remind yourself daily, my goals are louder than my enemies. You make your mission more attractive than the noise. You train yourself to recognize distraction as what it is, a trap in disguise. Every provocation is a fork in the road. React or rise. Don't feed what you want to fade. Don't touch what you want to die. Imagine this. Someone speaks ill of you in public. They twist your words, question your motives, mock your work. You hear about it. The old version of you would have fired back, but now you stay silent. You don't chase their attention, you chase your mission. You pour yourself into your craft. Months pass. Your work speaks louder than any defense. Their gossip fades. And you've become undeniable. Ask yourself, what have you been feeding that should have been starved? Are you nurturing distractions with your constant attention? Are you keeping petty drama alive by giving it your energy? The things you stop reacting to begin to lose power. You don't destroy them with anger, you destroy them with neglect. You don't have to win every battle. Sometimes the greatest win is simply not showing up to the fight. Ignore with discipline, not with bitterness, not with passive aggression, not with secret revenge, but with clarity, with a heart so focused on the future that the past can't distract you. Be so committed to where you're going that where you've been and who tried to stop you no longer matters. That's when you become untouchable, not because you fight well, but because you choose better battles. Some people feed off your reaction. They want to keep you tangled in smallness. They throw stones and wait for your roar. Don't give it to them. Let their noise echo into silence. Let them drown in their own distraction while you build in peace. The one who ignores well does not lose. They elevate. They gain time, power, and momentum, and in the end, they outlast the noise. This isn't passivity. It's wisdom. It's knowing that not all fires need to be put out. Some just burn out when they're not fed. You don't have to control everything around you. You just have to control what you give your energy to. That's your superpower. That's how you grow while others waste themselves trying to win battles that don't matter. The world is full of bait, emotional traps, petty provocations. Don't bite. Learn to walk past what wants your reaction, not because you're weak, but because you're wise, you're focused, you know that every reaction costs something. So before you respond, ask, is this worth my momentum? If it's not, let it go. Let your results speak later. That's how legends operate. Be the person who ignores without losing their center, who sees chaos but chooses clarity, who hears lies but lives in truth, and who outgrows every trap by simply not feeding it. The most dangerous man is the one who keeps building while others try to distract him. That man becomes untouchable, because some things don't die from confrontation, they die from starvation. So starve the distractions, feed your focus, let your energy serve your goals, not your grudges. Let your attention build your vision, not defend your pride. And remember, silence is not surrender, it's strategy, it's leadership, and it's how you rise quietly, consistently, completely. Let others waste their breath. You'll be too busy building something they can't touch. Discipline is doing nothing. When that's the smartest move, everyone celebrates action, hustle, movement, momentum, but few talk about the hidden power of inaction. There are moments in life where the smartest, strongest thing you can do is nothing. No reaction, no defense, no retaliation, just silence, just stillness, not out of fear, but out of control. Because true discipline isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you're wise enough not to do. When you pause, you gain perspective, and in that space, you gain power. When emotions are high and the atmosphere is tense, action feels urgent, but urgency is not always wisdom. In these moments, stillness is strength. Anyone can shout back, anyone can fight to be heard. But the one who restrains himself, who chooses not to act until the truth is clear, carries a different kind of power. He doesn't operate from emotion. He operates from intention. That's not passivity, that's strategy. Why is restraint so rare? Because the ego wants resolution. It wants to prove, defend, fix, now. It can't sit with uncertainty, but wisdom can. Wisdom whispers, wait, let this unfold. The man who follows ego reacts in the moment. The man who follows wisdom watches. He resists the pressure to act just because he feels something. He waits to move until he knows something. That pause, that gap between impulse and action, that's where power lives. You build this restraint like a muscle, through repetition, through practice. When you feel anger rise, pause. When you feel the itch to respond, wait. Breathe deeply. Journal your thoughts instead of releasing them. Go for a walk. Take space. These aren't delays, these are disciplines. You are teaching your body to serve your mission, not your mood. And with each pause, your clarity increases and your control multiplies. Picture this. You receive a harsh letter, maybe an accusation, a criticism, or a rejection. Your ego wants to reply instantly, to strike back, to set the record straight. But instead, you close the message. You step away. You sleep on it. 2 days pass. The person who sent it reaches out again, this time with an apology. And you've kept your dignity, your silence, and your energy. You didn't act from emotion. You waited. And in doing so, you won. Ask yourself, how many problems have you created by acting too fast? How many bridges have you burned because you reacted instead of reflected? How many situations would have resolved themselves if you had just waited? This is the hard truth. Most messes in life are not caused by what was done to us, but are caused by how we responded. And often the response we regret is the one we made too soon. The world rewards fast decisions, quick reactions, and immediate feedback. But real mastery often lies in delayed response. When you don't let others control your pace, when you don't let the situation rush you, you regain power. You see things clearly. You see people clearly. And that vision allows you to respond with wisdom, not just with force. It's the long game. It's the patient path. But it's the one that leads to victory without regret. Doing nothing doesn't mean being passive. It means being patient. It's an active decision to step back, assess, and move from a higher state of mind. This kind of restraint is rare. That's why it's powerful, because it allows you to outlast drama, outthink pressure, and outmaneuver those who are slaves to impulse. While they react, you refine. While they destroy, you prepare. And when the time is right, you move with precision. Consider this your discipline. When you feel attacked, disrespected, or provoked, pause. You don't owe anyone an immediate reaction. You don't owe your emotions the right to lead. You owe your mission your focus. You owe your future your restraint. Most of the time, the fire you want to put out, it burns out on its own. If you don't throw fuel on it with your response, silence isn't weakness. Stillness isn't fear. They are both forms of power that only the disciplined understand. The man who can sit with discomfort, who can wait out the storm without flinching, becomes a fortress, because nothing owns him. Not anger, not insecurity, not impulse. He chooses his actions the way a master chooses his words, with care, with control, and always with purpose. So the next time the heat rises, do nothing, just for a moment. Let the feeling pass. Let the dust settle. Let the emotion run through you without dictating your direction. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you wise. You'll still act, but not from desperation. You'll speak, but only when your words carry weight. This is how you build a life with fewer regrets and stronger foundation. Doing nothing at the right moment is not laziness, it's leadership. It's choosing stillness when chaos demands movement. It's choosing silence when noise demands a response. It's trusting that truth often reveals itself without your intervention. That dignity is preserved not by what you say, but by what you don't. Wait long enough and what's real will rise. Until then you hold, you pause. Because sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. Being unbothered makes you unbeatable. A man who cannot be disturbed is a man who cannot be defeated. Why? Because every battle requires your energy to keep burning. Conflict thrives on your attention. Chaos needs your participation. But when you don't flinch, when you refuse to react, the storm begins to starve. The fire dies from lack of fuel. The critics lose power. The distractions fade. You win not by overpowering the noise, but by outlasting it. You become a still mountain in the middle of madness. And mountains don't move for whispers. Being unbothered isn't just about feelings, it's a strategy. It's a choice to invest your energy where it grows, not where it gets drained. It's how you protect your mind, your mission, and your momentum. It's the art of non-reaction. Not because you're passive, but because you've outgrown the need to prove yourself to small minds. That's not apathy, that's discipline. When you're rising, people will try to pull you down. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of what they're not doing. They'll question you, mock you, lie about you, all to get your attention. Don't give it. They want you to stumble, to snap, to slip, but you just smile, you say nothing, you keep going. Because attention is power, and your power should never be handed to people trying to distract you from your path. So how do you become someone who cannot be shaken? You build a fortress within. You meditate, you journal, you reflect. You stop seeking validation and start seeking alignment. You become deeply grounded in your purpose, so nothing superficial can shake you. You build your mornings like rituals. You armor your mind with truth, because you understand life doesn't get quieter, you just get stronger. Imagine this, everyone doubts you. They whisper behind your back. They call you delusional, unrealistic, too ambitious. And yet, each day, you rise. You work, you improve, quietly, consistently. You don't waste time defending yourself. You're too busy becoming what they said you couldn't. And one day, they look up and realize you're miles ahead. Not because you talked about it, but because you acted while they watched. Ask yourself, what could you accomplish if you gave zero energy to distractions? How much further could you go if you stopped reacting to every opinion, every insult, every delay? Most people waste their lives explaining instead of executing. But your job is not to be understood by everyone. Your job is to build what you were meant to build. Let them doubt. Let them talk. You create. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you care deeply about the right things. Your family, your values, your vision, your health, your peace. It means you no longer trade your focus for foolishness. You no longer allow someone's bad day to become your bad week. You remain focused, steady, unshaken, because your life is too important to be interrupted by things that won't matter tomorrow. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misjudge you. That's their burden, not yours. You no longer need to correct every rumor or clarify every lie. You just keep moving. Because while they argue, you ascend. While they post, you produce. While they waste, you win. That's the power of staying grounded. You don't break, you build. And in doing so, you become untouchable, not through defense, but through direction. This discipline of non-reaction must be practiced daily. When someone insults you, breathe. When plans change, adjust. When delays come, smile. Every moment is a choice. Engage the chaos or rise above it. You're not responsible for the behavior of others. You're responsible for your response. And your ability to not respond is often your greatest advantage, because some storms aren't meant to be fought, just outlive. The world pushes you to react. News feeds on panic, but you operate on principle, not pressure. You do not dance to the beat of distraction. You move to the rhythm of purpose. Your stillness is your superpower. Your refusal to be baited is your brilliance. You don't need to win arguments. You just need to win the war of becoming. Every time you choose not to react, you multiply your strength. Every time you choose to focus instead of fight, you gain ground. And every time you show up, unshaken, unworried, unstoppable, you send a message without saying a word. I'm here for something bigger. That energy is rare, And because it's rare, it's respected. The world eventually notices the man who refuses to be moved. This is the quiet power you were born to manage. The ability to walk through storms without absorbing them. The strength to remain steady while others break. The clarity to know what's deserving of your attention and what's not. You become unbeatable, not by out-yelling the world, but by outlasting it. Not by reacting to chaos, but by creating peace. Your peace. So the next time they come for your energy, don't give it. The next time the world throws chaos, don't catch it. Let it pass. Let it crash against your silence. You are not here to chase arguments. You are here to build something unshakable, and that begins the moment you stop responding and start rising. Unbothered isn't a mood, it's a mindset, and that mindset makes you unbeatable. What you don't react to cannot control you. Nothing truly holds power over you unless you give it permission, and that permission is granted through reaction. The moment you flare up, argue, or try to set things straight, you've handed over control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. You've allowed something external to reach into your internal space, and that's the cost of a reaction, your peace. Every time you respond without reflection, you make the outside world your master. But here's the truth. What you ignore loses access. What you don't react to loses grip. You are not destroyed by what happens outside of you. You are weakened when you let the outside enter. The insult isn't the threat, it's your obsession with it afterward. The setback isn't the danger, it's how long you carry it in your spirit. That's where the real prison is built, not in events, but in how you absorb them. Most chains aren't on your hands, they're on your thoughts. True freedom begins the moment you learn to let things pass through you without letting them live inside you. Not everything deserves space in your mind. Not every comment deserves your breath. Not every disruption deserves your correction. When you pause, when you refrain, when you stay composed, you keep what matters most, your authority. People think silence is surrender, but real silence, strategic silence, is strength in disguise. It says, I see it. I choose not to give it power. So how do you become this kind of person? How do you move through fire without catching flames? You master the pause. You build the habit of separation between stimulus and response. You say to yourself, this moment is loud, but I will be quiet. You breathe before answering. You sit before speaking. You wait before reacting. Because peace isn't found after action. It's found in restraint. That's where the control lives. Train yourself to carry an inner script that overrides the urge to react. When something stings, remind yourself, this does not deserve my energy. Not because you're weak, but because you are wise. Not because you fear confrontation, but because you choose elevation. It's easy to mirror the chaos, but leaders create calm. And you only do that by refusing to let every ripple reach your shore. You don't allow outer noise to infect your inner tone. Picture this. You're in a room filled with people. Someone insults you, maybe even publicly. The words land. You feel the sting. All eyes turn toward you. They expect anger, a comeback, a fight. But instead you remain composed. You speak with grace, or not at all. You let your silence carry weight. That one moment, you didn't just ignore the insult. You declared, I am not yours to move. That's not submission. That's sovereignty. Ask yourself, how much damage have you caused in your life by reacting too quickly? How many doors closed? How many relationships strained? How much of your peace was lost, not from what was said, but from how you responded? When you react, you belong to the world. You hand it your focus, your voice, your mood. But when you stay calm, you reclaim it all. The less you react, the more powerful you become. Every time you remain calm in the face of chaos, you build a layer of strength others can feel. People begin to sense your stability. They see you as a person who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't dance to every provocation. And that earns you something rare, respect without demand. You don't need to dominate the room. You own the room by simply refusing to be rattled. Don't give your power away cheaply. Your attention is currency, your energy is limited, and your reaction is access. The moment you let someone pull you into their storm, you abandon your own weather. You start living their script instead of yours. Guard your energy like royalty guards a throne. Not everything deserves an audience with your soul. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive, no matter how right the reaction might feel. Here's the hidden truth. What you ignore will die, not immediately, but eventually. Drama fades without fuel. Gossip shrivels without attention. Provocations lose steam without resistance. Your silence doesn't validate the lie, it drains its life. Your stillness doesn't let them win. It ensures you don't lose. Because your life is built on clarity, on focus, and every reaction is a tax on that clarity you can't afford to pay. This doesn't mean you tolerate everything. It means you choose your battles. You speak when it builds something, not when it just proves a point. You move when it aligns with purpose, not when it merely satisfies ego. You lead yourself before you respond to anyone else, and in doing so, you stay in control of your outcomes, your mindset, and your identity. Let them say what they will. Let them bait, let them speculate. Your reaction is their goal. Deny them that satisfaction. Be so locked in on your mission that distraction looks like noise, not a threat. Be so grounded in who you are that insults sound like whispers, not commands, and be so committed to peace that chaos has no space to live in you. What you don't react to can't own you. What you don't respond to can't shape you. And what you rise above, it cannot follow you. Keep your peace, guard your power, respond only to what matters, and you will live truly free. Win quietly. Let the world catch up later. Real power never announces itself. It doesn't enter the room looking for approval. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't need applause or validation. Instead, it moves in silence. It builds steadily, quietly, patiently. And by the time the world finally realizes what you've become, it's too late to stop you. Your strength is already rooted, your path already paved. Real power isn't loud. It's inevitable. It's the force that doesn't knock before entering, because it's already earned its place. You don't need to post every step. You don't need to explain your hustle or broadcast your goals. Just improve, quietly. You don't need to say, "Watch me." You need to become someone worth watching. Let your transformation be private. Let your discipline be unseen. Let the results appear without warning, because when progress is real, it doesn't need to shout. It just shows up and demands respect. Why is quiet growth so rare? Because most people want to be seen becoming. They want credit for the effort, not just the result. They crave claps for showing up, not finishing. They feel the need to prove they're on the path before they've taken enough steps. But if you're building for freedom, not fame, you don't need the spotlight. You build because you're becoming, not because someone's watching. That's where real strength is formed, away from the eyes of the crowd. You don't get strong by being seen. You get strong by staying consistent when no one is watching. You rise early when no one's asking. You endure when no one's encouraging. You build when no one believes. You keep going when no one claps. And you do it not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. That's how you win quietly. That's how you build a life no one can take from you. Success is loud in hindsight. People will say, "You came out of nowhere." But the truth? You've been preparing in silence for years. While others posted, you practiced. While they argued, you studied. While they doubted, you committed. You didn't need them to see you. You needed to become what they couldn't imagine. Let your future surprise them. Let your results speak the language your silence was writing all along. There's power in quiet progress. It removes distractions. It sharpens focus. It teaches you to trust yourself, not their reactions. When you stop performing for attention, your energy goes into growth. You don't have to explain why you're absent, why you're unavailable, why you're different. You just are. Because you're choosing depth over display. Because your vision is more important than their opinion. And when it's ready, they'll see. Imagine this. Years from now, someone looks at you, disciplined, calm, successful. They ask, "When did you become like this?" And you smile, because it didn't happen overnight. You've been at it for years. You changed your mornings. You trained instead of talked. While they sought likes, you sought levels. And now, you don't have to explain anything. Your life is the proof. Your results are the announcement. Ask yourself, are you working for applause or for advancement? Are you hungry to be seen or hungry to become? If the claps stop, will you keep building? If no one notices, will you still show up? That's the test. That's the difference. The man who builds for applause needs noise to move. The man who builds for growth moves regardless. And when you build without noise, you gain something rare, unshakable confidence. Confidence that doesn't rely on compliments. Discipline that doesn't need to be displayed. A mindset so focused, so grounded, that distraction loses its appeal. You don't chase comparison. You don't rush to compete. You're in your own lane. You're building something too personal to share too early. And that's why you're winning, even before the world knows it. Your reward isn't in being recognized. It's in becoming undeniable. Let others seek attention. You seek growth. Let them show the world their hustle. You show the world your transformation after it's done. Let them flash effort. You'll display results. Your silence is not weakness. It's strategy. It's focus. It's your refusal to leak power for temporary praise, because while they're being seen, you're becoming someone they never saw coming. You don't need to make noise. Noise fades, but results echo. You don't need to defend your dream. You need to build it. You don't need to be known now. You need to become someone worth knowing when it's done. That's why you rise early. That's why you say no to distractions. That's why you disappear when others demand you stay visible, because greatness requires solitude. And you're not afraid of being unseen. The world celebrates the loud, but it's the quiet ones who shift it. The ones who kept their head down while everyone watched the wrong things. The ones who chose growth over gossip. The ones who sacrificed attention for mastery. That's who the world remembers. Not when they start, but when they arrive. By the time the world notices, you'll be too far ahead to catch. So stay quiet, stay steady, let your work be private, let your habits stay sacred. Don't rush to share, don't race to prove, just become. Because one day the questions will come. When did you change? How did you get so far? And your answer will be simple. While you were watching noise, I was building in silence. Let this be your code. No need to post it, just do it. No need to prove it, just become it. No need to announce it, just arrive. Because real power doesn't beg to be seen. It becomes impossible to ignore. When you act as if nothing bothers you, you reclaim your power. You stop giving others control over your mind. Let them guess what you're thinking. Let them wonder how you stay so calm. That silence, that stillness, it's your strength. Every time you refuse to react, you rise above. So walk forward, unbothered, unshaken, unstoppable. You don't owe anyone your peace. Keep it, guard it, master it, because the calmest man in the room always wins.